Echo and HarperAudio present The Uptown Local, Joy, Death, and Joan Didion, a memoir by Cory Leadbeater, read by Charlie Thurston. This book is for my father and mother, who lived through hell 10 times over, while my selfishness only grew further and further. That's your name on the book's cover. Make a decision, and what you want from the lost things will present itself. Elizabeth Hardwick. Cory, it's Joan. Nothing is wrong. I just wanted to tell you that. Joan Didion. 1. Orange tulips at the crosswalks on Park Avenue in spring, rustling from the force of passing taxis causing the blacktop to shake. Yellow roses beneath the back table of the dark bar, gifted to me in secret by an older woman who was engaged to another man. It was because my father had grown up on a gas station, where his father beat him so badly that he left home at 16. And one generation on, he was in prison while I lived rent-free on 71st Street with Joan, where she taught me about fish and the New York Review and love. The magic was that I could afford cabs, that I'd stumbled sideways into history, that I felt accepted and momentarily freed. The magic was reading the Times with a cigarette and a coffee in the early morning on a bench on 116th Street as cabbies changed shifts, or else huddling over drinks in the back room on Rivington while I waited for Billy Silvers to tell me what to do next. I fed birds with Carrie Ann. I wrote poems to Margaret Ann. I fell in and out of love with Frank and wrote 4 books that were rejected, 1 book that was accepted, a book that was bound to sell, and many, many books that never sold. The magic of this period was, finally, the protective web Joan cast over me. The feelings of acceptance and validation, a buoy against an ocean of indifference, which drowns the deserving and the undeserving alike, and which has rules known only to itself. There was also, to an almost equal extent, a creeping terror. For long stretches, I was untying my shoelaces and crossing 72nd Street against traffic, hoping against hope that I would trip and fall beneath a delivery truck's wheels. I would stand on subway platforms and listen to the train wailing near, the noise building, the squeal and rumble and gargantuan thrust just ahead, and I would listen with hope and feel myself shake, and I would pray for the courage to at last leap out and kiss the 6. Every 3 weeks I would wake at 3 a.m. and drive 3 hours into Pennsylvania, through winding river valleys and thick tree-lined stretches of farmland, to visit my father in prison. Connor was dead and staying that way. Billy Silvers had alienated everyone I loved. Podrick needed a new kidney. Ben and Terry and Jerry had been arrested. Alex was depressed. My mother was alone. Hannah left New York and moved to California. And Joan, too. Joan still alive, Joan still decently well, but not thriving. Each day we sat together and listened to Chopin or the Andrews Sisters or Nina. We read Auden and Stevens and Merwin. We sat at our 5th Avenue bench just outside the park while she gripped my hand. She smiled brightly at me. But she knew and I knew that at some point she would have to leave. We'd had a blissful period of eating dinners alone together, of smoking cigarettes and having wine alone together. But by then, those days were behind us. Everything was harder now for her, harder now for me too. Will you believe me here if I tell you that I loved her? Will you believe me if I tell you that she loved me, and it kept me alive? I lived with Joan the first many years I worked for her, and moved out only when I met Liz, with whom I now have a child. 9 years. The 9 years she was my boss, a job that was supposed to last 6 months. It was sometime in those first 2 years when she fell and gripped my hand.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?